Today I want to do a quick video, but on something that's fairly important. It's in regards to, I suppose, a couple of comments and some online content I've seen recently about a situation where, well, listen, as we do occasionally see, whether it's in the field or on YouTube or wherever it is, where there is a gun incident or a gun explosion where someone is damaged. In some cases worse, they are a thing that is containing or controlling a explosion, a very rapid expansion of gases, sending off a bullet in the direction we want to do things with, target shooting or whatever that's in, hunting or whatever it is. But if it goes wrong, that same rapid expansion of gases can turn into explosion, which can turn into damage. In situations gone by, there's been various things in stories where whether someone at the range has had a squib where they've fired a bullet, stayed in the chamber and they've fired again, or it stayed in the barrel and fired again, whether it's a cleaning rod being left in a rifle that's at the range where someone was cleaning and they didn't get, left the end or left the rod in there, left the mop in there. So something happened to where there's something in the barrel and there's damage on that form, whether there's the wrong load gone into it or a experimental load gone into it caused damage, or in what could have been in this instance where there was a rifle was sent to a gunsmith to get a thread put on the end of it, and then it's run a suppressor and it's run out in the field, and then that there has been when it's fired, that has then exploded and come back in someone's face. In the case I was watching, or the most recent one I watched, where there was damage to the eye, probably ending up permanent damage to the eye, but a certain amount of damage to the eye of this individual actually happened. Now, in reading through the comments, or the obvious thing in the bit of description that was in that situation was a bulge in the end of the barrel, and the suppressor had exploded and fired back into the person's face. The bulge in the barrel, just before the end of the barrel, would be a suggestion of what probably had happened, and I went through the comments to see if you could see what I was expecting to find. And a few people were onto it in various formats, but I've heard a bit of a disturbing thing, which is what I'm following through here. Now, the suggestion was there had been some cleaning swab or something or other left in the barrel by the gunsmith to stop threads, when they're cutting the threads on the barrel, to stop stuff getting down inside there. And what was surmised to have happened is that when the shot was fired, it hit that stuff there, caused an instant bulge, that caused everything to shred, went out into the can, into the suppressor, that carnage going everywhere ended up blowing back into the shooter's face, which is a plausible scenario. Only with and I'm going to be straight up and say, with a whole heap of negligence involved. I know I'm not talking about the gunsmith. Yes, the gunsmith should have cleaned it. Yes, if that was the case, if the gunsmith left a bit of rag in there at the end of the barrel where they're cleaning it, yes, they should have pushed that through. And that is certainly where the first mistake is. But regardless of that, and this is really what I want to get into, is that in all formats, you, the shooter, you with the finger on your trigger, you have the responsibility of making sure the barrel is clear and ready to fire. To be truthful, if you're going for a hunt, that scenario doesn't make sense for me in a lot of fashions. If it just had a thread cut into that barrel and it had then been given back to the owner and the owner's going to go and hunt with it, where do you think it's aiming? Do you not realize that, and everyone should know this, if you're going to do something to the muzzle end of your rifle particularly, once it's pulled to pieces and put back together, okay, you get a red dot, you clip on it or something like that, a sight, you're very comfortable where that goes on, that clips on and off all the time, and you're used to being able to hit, you know, the 2 MOA spot, which will do for your hunting. Okay, I get it. If it's more accurate than that, if you're after 1 MOA at 100 yards and you pull it to pieces and put it back together and you need a 1 MOA hit, 100 yards, 1 inch, you need to be inside that dot, then you should be rechecking your zero regardless. But you have to understand that if you're putting even a different weight muzzle brake on or a different suppressor, anything changes up the front there, that can move by more than that amount. Just simply in the simple rudimentary of weight at the end of the muzzle, just a change in weight at the end of the muzzle can change the point of impact by up to 4 inches at 100 yards, massively. It is about harmonics, it's about complicated process of how barrels work, but just changing the weight can change that. Let alone actually cutting a thread on there. Now, that's the fundamentals of where it's going to shoot. Is it going to be safe or not? Well, you don't know what's happened. You simply should be running something through there to make sure. You should be looking through there. You should make sure in some form or other that your barrel is clear, that there's no obstruction. Now you may say, oh, it's just me, my risk, I haven't got the time, I'll take the risk, and I'd be fine with that. Well, okay, you've got a bit of a death threat. Someone standing next to you might be the person that takes that hit. It is a simple, basic thing. It comes down to, if your finger's on the trigger of that firearm, you are certain that it's going to function properly when you pull that trigger. Now the best way to be certain of that is that you've just fired it. If you're going to take a gun out for a hunt, if you're going to do that sort of stuff, and the last thing it did wasn't firing, the last thing it did, and now obviously if you fired it and there was a light swab through it to clean it, to put it away, that sort of stuff, okay, I understand that side of things. Checking zeros can still make sense, but I understand that it's only been a couple of weeks, or maybe you've done every year like that, but you just make sure, even if it's been left for any length of time, to check it. You don't know what happened. You have not had your hands on it the whole time. It's a simple check. I'd run some rounds through it. But if nothing else, look through the barrel. And okay, you can't see it because there's a buttstock in the road, or you can't get the bolt out and that sort of rifle, that type of thing. Get yourself a little dentist mirror and look up there. Or worst case scenario, or maybe best case scenario, you run a cleaning rod through it. Make sure that it's clear. Yes, you can, if you're very careful, know what you're doing, you can even run that from the muzzle end. I've been through how to do that, not go in detail. You can stuff it up from that end, but you can do it safely from that end also. Or run a bore snake through it to make sure it's clear. It is simple, our responsibility. If you're on the trigger, unless you've just seen it fired, in Western Australia, we can't actually borrow each other's guns anymore. That rule's been controlled by our police force, by our government and police force. But in the rest of the common sense world, where you can loan a firearm, it's still your responsibility. It's not the other guy's responsibility because he gave it to you and it should be fine. It's not the gunsmith's responsibility because he was working on it, it should be fine. No, it's your responsibility to know that is clear and to know that it's going to function properly. It might cost you your vision, it might cost you your life to surmise otherwise. This also goes into the world of using ammunition you haven't tested before, you don't know, you're not certain about. Yes, by and large, we have to go with a level of faith. We buy ammunition for this round, for this rifle. We go through and we make sure it fires properly. I would tend to also then be testing it, and even regardless of everything else, if it's the first time I fired this rifle, even if I got a 308 sitting here that I've never seen, it's clear, that sort of stuff, I get some factory 308 ammunition, my first shots of making sure it's good will tend to be with my face away from the muzzle. Not the muzzle, of course, from the muzzle. With my face away from the rifle. I'll hold it down, I'll make sure it goes bang, I'll keep it to where it's as safe as it can be. So make sure everything works. I don't trust it implicitly. If I'm getting someone else's hand loads, well, there's another whole level as well. I generally wouldn't use someone else's hand loads unless I really know and trust them that they have the integrity to do that properly. The hand loads where people end up putting a different powder in there, they're running, I'll tend to run powder where I'm compressed, I can't get 2 loads in it, but you get to where they're running a load of powder that they can run half full in there, as you can see people shake their ammo to see if they can hear their powder in there. Well, in that situation, you generally can get another powder load in there. That could mean you're overpressuring that firearm. So you've got to trust in the person, and if you don't trust in the person, if you don't trust in the situation, should you be using the ammunition? Anyway, It comes down to, I don't know the whole story with that. I'm not going to point out the video we're talking about. I've heard many stories like this over time. Comes back to the same place for me. If you're going to squeeze that trigger, you're certain about what's about to happen. Now I get it, there's still weird things can happen. We live in the real world, absolutely. There is stuff can happen, but you've done all the checks that you should have. You know that the rifle, or sorry, the bore is unobstructed. You know where it's going to hit because you have actually tested this ammunition in this gun, in this setup, with this muzzle device, with this scope. You've gone through and tested it and made sure it all worked. One is about safety for you and not blowing your head off. The other one is about the fact that you're not about to shoot something in the gut that where you were trying to euthanize it, or you're trying to harvest, and you end up wounding it and running off to die because you didn't bother checking your scope or checking your point of impact. Bore snake, something I do want to touch on. I mentioned bore snake there. Some people tell me, oh, it's all easy. I just use a bore snake, and a bore snake's really good because a bore snake's really easy. A bore snake is the type of cleaning apparatus where you have I'll actually have one through a rifle here. I've set it up already so I didn't have to fuss around in front with you. But basically you have a nylon cord or a cotton cord out one side, and you have out the other side the cleaning snake. And in part of this there's a little bit of brass wire wound into it, so it's going to clean it and pull it through then thoroughly. It's basically take carbon out as well. You can run a little bit of oil on them. There's all sorts of ways. Nice simple way to do a reasonably thorough clean, or a field clean, I should say. But there is a big danger with these units. Works quite well in something like this, the lever action. You can use it in all sorts of things, but a lever action, rather than pulling the lever out and everything to get the bolt out to put a proper cleaning rod through it, you can use these. The tricky bit of these comes into this other end. There are many, many rifles that no longer shoot accurately because of a bore snake. Now the reason is that when people go to pull on these, if you look closely here, when you go pull on these, they just grab it and pull this through. Sometimes they're quite tight. It depends on what fit you got with your bore snake, but they pull on here. And what actually happens is they pull this rope. It's just cotton rope or it's just nylon rope. They just pull it out just at any old way. It ends up rubbing across your crown. Now something like this, a hunting rifle with the crown design that it is, it's not as bad. It's still bad, but it's not as bad. But you use it on a target crown, then you're immediately changing that crown on that point. And quite common gunsmiths tell me, I've not seen it myself, I've seen it a couple of times, but it's not common, where it'll be, a left hander will be on this side, a right hander will be on that side. It'll be about how they hold the rifle and where they're pulling their cord out, because they're sliding this, and you might say it's just cotton or it's just nylon, it's just rope, how's that going to damage steel? The same way all soft things wear hard things out. This stuff gets impregnated with carbon and with little bits of steel, microcarbons and things that are very, very hard. And then it turns into sandpaper that you're pulling across your crown and destroying your crown. It's the most common way that a barrel loses accuracy. It gets damage to the crown. So when you do pull these through here, you've got to make sure that you're pulling very straight out of there so that you're not rubbing against that crown at all. I've been suggested, it's not something we use very much, but you could, out in the field there, find yourself a limit about the right height, tie it off on the limb, and then pull the rifle straight back to pull it through. So it is something, I won't do that as I can't see everything when I'm trying to do it like this. I'll finish pulling that through and clean this little rifle then. But it is something that a tool that is, yes, a very valuable, a very nice, easy to use tool, something you can put in your pocket, put in your pack, that sort of stuff. You can clean through your rifle and do the absolute right thing, because there's another incident that can cause the problem. If you haven't got something covering your barrel when you're feeding through the scrub and that sort of stuff, you could end up with a berry, a twig, or whatever it is that falls down inside your barrel and be in the same situation. So it's another thing that people recommend for people going through that sort of stuff. Get yourself a little bit of tape, a little bit of very light, like paper tape or something simple on there to actually cap your muzzle so that when you're walking through things, nothing can fall in. And for the people who've tested, it really makes no difference to the point of aim putting on the front there either. It's been pushed off by the air that comes out in front. So it really ends up where it's gone when you take a shot, but nothing went into the barrel while you're going through things. Anyway, these are very good for that side of things. If you've got to clean in the field, that sort of stuff, it ended up with some stuff, you want to clean it, very good for that. But be very wary of the fact that you can also be destroying your barrel if you are yanking it through there, like people are likely to do, to get it through, get it clean, it's done, and it's all good. Yeah, but the actual, that sharp little angle right at the end of your muzzle is a very important detail, and wearing it out really can change the accuracy of that firearm. Anyway, that's the list on that one there. I'll come back to the same place. Really super important to make sure you know what's going to happen when you pull that trigger. And the likes of, oh, the gunsmith should have checked it, that sort of stuff. No, that's an extraordinarily poor perspective. Yes, the gunsmith shouldn't have left anything in there. And none of us should make any mistakes, but we're all human. How we fix all human, we make sure that our protocols, our practices, what we do, cover our bases. And that means if this rifle's been somewhere else, in any form, even if someone's loaned it, not allowed to over here, if it's been in the cupboard for a year because it hasn't come out, that sort of, it might have been in the safe and I think it's fine. The first thing to do to make sure of that is to make sure that it is unobstructed in that barrel. A super important ingredient. And all the other bits and pieces that go with it. Anyway guys, that's it for that one. Starting to be a bit ranty, but it is something that, it might save more than you think. Anyway guys, thanks for checking in. I'll catch you next time.